The Midnight Hitchhiker. I've always been a night owl, thriving in the darkness when the rest of the world is asleep. So it was no surprise that I found myself behind the wheel, embarking on a late-night drive down a desolate stretch of road. Little did I know that this nocturnal journey would become a nightmare beyond my wildest imagination. The moon hid behind a thick layer of clouds, casting an eerie shadow over the landscape. The road stretched out before me like a ribbon of asphalt, disappearing into the abyss of the night. I turned up the volume on the radio, hoping to drown out the silence that hung heavy in the car. As I cruised along the empty highway, a flicker of movement caught my eye. I glanced into the rearview mirror and saw a figure emerging from the darkness, their hand raised in a desperate plea. My heart skipped a beat, torn between sympathy and caution. Against my better judgment, I slowed down and pulled over. The stranger approached with a hesitant gait, their face concealed by the shadow of a hood. As they climbed into the passenger seat, a chill filled the air, and a sense of foreboding washed over me. I glanced at them, catching a glimpse of their pale, gaunt features. Their eyes held a hollow emptiness that sent a shiver down my spine. "Thank you," they whispered, their voice barely audible. "I've been walking for miles." I managed a weak smile, my unease growing by the second. I asked them where they were headed, hoping to engage in small talk to alleviate the tension. But they simply stared out the window, their silence unnerving. Unease gnawed at me as I resumed driving. The stranger's presence weighed heavily in the car, the silence stretching like an endless abyss. I attempted to strike up conversation again, but their response was nothing more than a vague murmur. As the miles passed, the road grew increasingly desolate. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. My eyes darted to the rearview mirror, only to find the stranger's reflection distorted, their features contorted in a grotesque manner. The radio crackled, and a voice that didn't belong to any station, pierced through the static. "Beware," it hissed, "for you travel with a passenger from beyond." My heart raced, my grip on the steering wheel tightening. I glanced at the stranger, now aware of the malevolence emanating from their very being. The atmosphere in the car grew suffocating, their presence more sinister with each passing second. I attempted to pull over, my mind set on ridding myself of this ominous hitchhiker, but my hands refused to obey, as if an invisible force had taken control of the car. Panic surged through my veins, my heart pounding against my ribcage. I was a mere puppet, trapped in this macabre theater of horror. The road twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the unknown. Shadows danced at the periphery of my vision, their movements unholy and unnatural. I could feel their presence, like icy fingers grazing my skin. It was as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling around me. I stole a glance at the stranger, their hood now cast aside. My breath caught in my throat, for their face was not one of the living. It was pallid and decaying, an abomination caught between life and death. Their hollow eyes bore into mine, filled with a hunger that chilled me to the core. I mustered the courage to speak, my voice barely above a whisper. "Who are you?" Their lips curled into a sinister grin, their voice a raspy hiss. "I am but a spirit, condemned to wander this realm, and you, dear driver, have unwittingly become part of my eternal quest." Dread coiled in my stomach, my mind racing for an escape, but the road continued to wind aimlessly, leading me deeper into their web of darkness. I was their captive audience, bound to their unholy whims. Minutes stretched into an eternity as the car hurtled forward, a vessel of doom on an uncharted path. The world around me distorted and warped, an ethereal nightmare brought to life. I closed my eyes, praying for salvation from this unearthly torment. And then, silence. I opened my eyes, finding myself back on the desolate road, the passenger seat empty. The stranger, the hitchhiker from beyond, had vanished into thin air. I drew a shaky breath, my body trembling with a mixture of relief and lingering fear. As I continued my drive into the night, a sense of unease clung to me like a shadow. The encounter with the supernatural hitchhiker had left an indelible mark on my soul. I now knew that the road at night held more than just solitude. It concealed secrets, creatures lurking in the darkness waiting to ensnare unsuspecting souls. And so, with each passing night, I drive with caution, casting wary glances into the rearview mirror, for I know that the realm of the otherworldly may forever be intertwined with the winding highways of our mortal world.
The Desolate Road. Driving at night has always held a certain allure for me. The thrill of the darkness enveloping the world, the solitude of the empty road stretching out before me. But that one night, when I embarked on a journey I would never forget, everything changed. It was a moonless night, and the stars seemed to have abandoned the sky. I was driving through a desolate countryside, the only source of light emanating from my headlights, piercing through the black void like searching beams. The road was long and winding, bordered by towering trees that stood like silent sentinels. As I continued on my solitary path, an unsettling feeling began to creep up on me. The familiar tranquility I associated with night drives was replaced with an overwhelming sense of unease. It felt as if the very air was charged with an eerie energy, whispering secrets I couldn't decipher. Suddenly, the radio crackled to life, a burst of static breaking the silence. I reached out to turn it off, but the static transformed into a faint voice, barely audible but unmistakably there. It was a haunting whisper that slithered into my ears, chilling me to the core. I tried to shake off the eerie sensation, dismissing it as a mere malfunction, but the whisper persisted, growing louder with each passing moment. Unease settled in the pit of my stomach as I glanced into the rearview mirror, catching a glimpse of something in the darkness. My heart skipped a beat as my gaze locked with a pair of gleaming, malevolent eyes. A shiver ran down my spine, and I could feel my grip on the steering wheel tighten involuntarily. I accelerated, hoping to outrun whatever unseen force was closing in on me, but the road seemed to stretch endlessly, the trees whizzing past in a blur, yet never bringing me any closer to my destination. Panic seeped into my veins, mingling with the cold fear that gripped my heart. The whispers grew louder, their words now distinguishable, though distorted and filled with an otherworldly cadence. They spoke of ancient curses and forgotten terrors, promising a fate worse than death. I clutched my ears, desperate to block out the haunting voices, but they persisted, clawing their way into my mind. Through the cacophony of whispers, a single word echoed with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. Turn. It was a command, a siren call that seemed to originate from every direction. My hands trembled as I fought against the compulsion to obey, but the pull grew stronger, the voice more insistent. In a moment of weakness or perhaps madness, I succumbed. I veered the car onto a narrow, overgrown path that emerged suddenly from the darkness. The whispers receded, replaced by an eerie silence that settled like a heavy fog. The path twisted and turned, winding deeper into the heart of the unknown. The trees closed in, their gnarled branches clawing at the car as if trying to pull me back. I felt trapped, a helpless prey ensnared by an invisible predator. Then, as if the world had shifted, I found myself on an old bridge spanning a bottomless chasm. The moon emerged from behind a cloud, casting an eerie glow on the desolate scene. Panic surged within me, the realization of my dire predicament crashing down. My foot trembled above the brake pedal, my mind racing for a way out. But before I could react, the car began to move on its own, creeping forward, defying my control. I screamed, my voice lost in the night as the bridge crumbled beneath the weight of the car, sending us hurtling into the abyss. Time stretched, elongating into an eternity as the car descended into the darkness. My screams echoed through the abyss, blending with the tortured wails of those who had fallen before me. And then, silence consumed everything. When I awoke, disoriented and battered, I found myself standing on the edge of that very same bridge. The wreckage of my car lay scattered below, a testament to the horrors I had experienced. Fear clung to me like a second skin as I realized that this was no ordinary accident. In the distance, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall and gaunt, its eyes glowing like dying embers. The air grew frigid and a voice, barely a whisper, echoed through the night. "Welcome," it hissed, "to the realm of the lost." I knew then that I was trapped, forever doomed to wander this desolate place, haunted by the tormented souls who had met their end on this forsaken road. A road that lured unsuspecting travelers into its clutches, ensnaring them in an eternal nightmare. And as the figure advanced, its elongated fingers reaching out, I knew there was no escape. The darkness claimed me, body and soul, sealing my fate as another lost soul condemned to roam the desolate road forever.
The haunting highways. I relished the thrill of driving at night, the open road stretching out before me like a pathway to the unknown. But that night, as I embarked on my usual late-night drive, little did I know that I was about to embark on a journey that would shatter my perception of reality. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow on the desolate highway. The world seemed asleep, wrapped in a blanket of silence and darkness. My headlights pierced through the inky blackness, illuminating the road ahead. The hum of the engine was the only sound that accompanied me, a familiar lullaby in the solitude of the night. But as I traveled deeper into the night, an uneasiness settled in the pit of my stomach. Shadows seemed to dance at the corners of my vision, taunting me with their elusive movements. A chill crawled up my spine, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I turned on the radio, hoping to drown out my growing unease with some music. The air crackled with static, punctuated by snippets of distorted voices. I frowned, twisting the dial to find a clear station, but every frequency emitted the same unsettling sound. Whispers, faint and garbled, slithered through the speakers, sending shivers down my spine. My heart raced as I caught a glimpse of something in the rearview mirror. A figure, fleeting and ethereal, appeared for a split second before vanishing into the darkness. Panic seized me, my hands trembling on the steering wheel. I blinked, telling myself it was a trick of the mind, but deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. I accelerated, desperate to put distance between myself and whatever lurked in the shadows. The road stretched out endlessly before me, a labyrinthine path leading to the unknown. But no matter how fast I drove, the scenery remained unchanged, as if time itself had frozen. The whispers grew louder, their voices intertwining in a symphony of terror. They spoke of forgotten secrets and ancient curses, weaving a tapestry of darkness in my mind. I covered my ears trying to block out the haunting voices, but they echoed through my very being. A flicker of movement caught my attention, and my blood turned to ice. A figure, tall and gaunt, emerged from the darkness, stepping onto the road with deliberate slowness. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, fixated on me with an intensity that sent chills down my spine. I swerved, narrowly avoiding a collision, my heart pounding against my chest. The figure pursued me relentlessly, its presence growing stronger with each passing moment. I couldn't escape its gaze, its haunting eyes burning into my soul. The road twisted and turned, the path ahead becoming a labyrinth of confusion. The lines on the pavement blurred, leading me astray into a distorted reality. A heavy fog descended, swallowing the surroundings in a ghostly haze. Visibility dwindled, leaving only a few feet of the road illuminated by my flickering headlights. I strained to see through the mist, my heart pounding with every beat. The car jolted and I slammed on the brakes, the screech of the tires tearing through the night. I peered through the fog, my eyes widening in horror. The road abruptly ended, vanishing into an impenetrable abyss. I had reached the edge of the world, trapped in an inescapable nightmare. Fear clutched at my throat as the figure closed in, its elongated fingers brushing against the car. Its voice, a raspy whisper, echoed in my mind. "Join us," it hissed, "in eternal darkness." With trembling hands, I fumbled for the door handle, desperate to flee. But as I stepped out of the car, reality warped around me. The world twisted and contorted, an ever-changing labyrinth of torment. The figure advanced, its face shifting and morphing into grotesque forms. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding with terror. The ground gave way beneath me, and I fell into a seemingly infinite void. Darkness enveloped me, consuming everything. When I regained consciousness, I found myself back in my car, parked on the side of the road. My heart raced, my body drenched in a cold sweat. Was it all just a horrific nightmare? I glanced at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the figure staring back at me. But there was nothing. Only my own reflection, haggard and haunted. I shuddered, realizing that the night had scarred me, leaving an indelible mark on my soul. The memories of that harrowing journey would forever haunt my every thought, a reminder that there are places in this world that should remain untouched. And as I drove away, my headlights cutting through the darkness, I couldn't help but wonder if the roads themselves held secrets, dark, ancient tales that whispered in the night, waiting for the unsuspecting traveler to stumble upon their chilling embrace.